Hi, Paul Heffernan here, creator and founder of MindShift. I'm going to be running a series of videos which will be in my blog and on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, etc. and also on YouTube. The first one I'm going to do is actually around where did MindShift come from? Where did it originate? How was it created? And for that, I have to tell you a little bit about my story. And I don't want to get too much into the story because we all have a story. But it's important to know that 33 years ago actually, I had a decision to make, a major decision. I actually had to give up alcohol and drugs, or I was either going to end up in jail or dead. I had 4 beautiful children, a beautiful wife, and I was leading a Jekyll and Hyde life. And so I was lucky that I made the decision to go to the treatment centre, and that was really the change in my life, major change. You know, today I have 5 beautiful children, I have 11 grandchildren, and I'm still with my wife, so I'm very lucky, and also have a dog, Dougal. But when I left treatment, I started to go into 12-step programs, and I just didn't want to go to a 12-step program and live there. I wanted to live life on life's terms without alcohol and drugs. And many people say, well, what's this got to do with anxiety and depression? Well, quite a bit actually. As you go through my series of videos, you'll start to realise, and in this video I explain where the anxiety and depression came from as well, and how it relates to alcohol and drugs. There's a whole interrelation between all these. So what happened, I was doing these 12-step programs, I was helping people. For many years I worked and helped people in prisons, because where I'd grown up, a number of my friends, many of my friends had ended up in jail. And so I just thought it was natural I go up there and go to the different prisons and try and help people where I can. And I went into treatment centres, and one of the, with the Salvation Army, I went and helped at the Bridge, the retreat in Auckland, wherever I could help somebody. And for me, how I learnt and created MindShift was around actually working with people. It was actually the intense work with hundreds and hundreds of people who suffered from afflictions, from addiction, alcohol, drugs, food, gambling, etc. And then I started to get some of my own ideas. I looked at all the people who didn't get well, who couldn't get well. I looked at the people who just kept going to meetings after meetings after meetings, and I'm going, and then I looked at the people who were getting well. And then I was reading lots of information in different areas, in quantum physics and neuroscience and new age stuff. I was just soaking up more information. And it wasn't until I was about 20 years sober and clean, I started to develop my own ideas. And I'm going, this is interesting. And I'd done some workshops for people a few years later then. It was like most probably around 25, 26 years. I did some workshops. And out of those workshops came the anxiety and the depression. And a number of people said to me, look, I suffer from anxiety. And they're doing this workshop for addiction, but they said, I've got this anxiety, just won't go away. And other one said, I've had depression and it won't go away. And so we worked through some things, and all of a sudden they rang me and said, look, it's like it's gone. Whatever you did worked. So I rang a number of my clients in Australia. At that time this had become my profession. It wasn't an avocation anymore. For many years I'd done no charging, I just learned. And so overall I've had 33 years of experience of working with people. And yes, I do know what works, and it's really fascinating. But these people came to me and said, look, I don't have it. So I rang my clients in both Australia and New Zealand, and I said, when you first came to me, what were your levels of anxiety like? And they said, they were horrible. They were off the Richter scale. Did you have depression? They said, yes. They all said yes. And then I went back in my own life, and I realised that as a young person, I'd suffered from anxiety through my own father's drinking and my mother's screaming at him when he'd spent the pay money, and he'd come home and we would run off to our bedroom. And so I started to realise, my own anxiety through my life. And then I also knew that I'd actually suffered from depression, and when I'd been around 16, 17 years clean and sober. And I'd also had major trauma. My mother died when I was 17, and that's when I went off the rails. And I'll talk about that later around emotions, etc. So all these things started to build up, but they gave me answers to a lot of problems around anxiety, around depression, around trauma, PTSD they talk about, and addiction. And, I also understood, it also gave me answers around stress and worry, etc. So I started putting together MindShift about 7 years I started ago. Just getting the, I suppose, the skeleton for it and getting some ideas. And then I started piecing it together and working with people, and it built and built and built to a stage where today, MindShift is a totally integrated program that's for anybody. It's not just for people with anxiety and depression, it's anyone, or addiction. It's for anybody who just wants to clear their past. In one of my videos I talk about skeletons in the cupboard, and it's about our past, the skeletons we don't even sometimes realize we hold on to. I've had clients I've dealt with, and they said to me, well, I don't have anything, I don't have any anger or resentment towards people. I feel pretty good, I said, well, just sleep on it for the night. And what they do, they wake up the next morning, they go, Paul, I just went through my life. I was just thinking about lying in bed last night. They go, wow. And I said, I made a list. I said, great, we can work with that. And that's what I'm talking about. It's all the stuff we've had from our past. It's not about the future stuff, but understand with MindShift. And I'm going to explain more in the next series of videos that how it all works, around emotions, around skeleton, around blame, etc. But I just wanted to give you an overview of how it evolved. So it's evolved over 33 years of practical experience, of my practical experience working with hundreds and hundreds of people, young, old, male, female, rich, poor, the whole gambit, prisons, treatment centres, and with phenomenal results. These days I get phenomenal results. And I explain why it works, and also explain, there's a video I do, why it won't work sometimes, okay? And that's an interesting video. But look, I've just explained how this evolved into MindShift today. So it not just a bright idea, it's through 33 years of experience, other people's experience, other people's stories, and I appreciate all those people. And just through having discussions and reading and looking online and finding what is the stuff I need. And it really, in the next one, I'm going to talk about how MindShift works. And so as I said, it's a 3-phase program, and you'll see more in the next video. But I just wanted to let you know how we got to have MindShift today. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.